For the following graph of p of x, we're asked to determine a few things. The first task is to find p of 1. So this graph of p of x is what we call a piecewise function, and it's defined, it's true to its name, it's defined in pieces. And one interesting point on this graph is at x equal 1, right? So when we're finding p of 1, remember that the 1 represents an input into the function, or an x value, and p of 1 represents its corresponding y value. So when we go to x equal 1, notice that at x equal 1, we've got kind of two choices here, right? I'm going to go up to this point at 1, 1. I'm going to put a little red dot there, okay? So that is where p of 1 is, because that's a solid dot on the graph. The one down here at 1, -3 there, it's got an open dot there, so we're not including that point. We're only including the one at 1, 1. And thank goodness, because we're calling it a function and it has to pass the vertical line test, right? So at x equal 1, the y value is 1. So we're going to say that p of 1 equals 1, okay? Then we're asked to state the domain in interval notation. Okay, so the domain, remember, is the set of all x values, right? And so I'm thinking about, okay, what's the lowest x value on the function? It's here at -5, right? X equal -5. The highest x value is 3, right? So now the question that I would ask is, are all of the x values between -5 and 3 accounted for, right? Like, are there any breaks or holes or anything like that? Well, the only place it gets tricky is at x equal 1, right? But in part A, we said p of 1 equals 1. So it has a corresponding y value at x equal 1. So if x equal 1 is included and everything else on the interval is included, I'm going to say that the domain is the interval from -5 up to 3. And I'm using a closed bracket at both ends because both at -5 and at 3 there's a solid dot there on the graph. In part C here it says state the range in interval notation. All right, so I'm thinking about what is the lowest y value and the highest y value. And the lowest y value is down here at y equal -3. We're not including the value, right? But we want to include everything down to that value. And the highest y value is up here at 4, right? Okay, so then my question would be, am I including that whole interval from -3 up to 4? Are all the y values included? And I'm noticing that between -1 and 0, like right in here, there's nothing there, right? So it's like we've got a break in the range here. Okay, so in interval notation, we would say -3 up to -1. Notice I'm using an open parenthesis at -3 because of that open dot. We're not actually including the value at -3. And then at -1, we are including it because there's a solid dot there at -1. And in union with, the next y value that's possible is 0, right? And it's included on the graph, as is 4, right? All the way up here. Okay, so we're just thinking about this interval from 0 to 4 now. And we're including both intervals in the range, right? So the range is the interval from -3 to -1, excluding -3, and also in union with 0 to 4.